Hello everyone, Reza here. In this video, I will show you how we can create a responsive dialog control experience in Power Apps. We will build a fully responsive Power App and add to it responsive pop-up control, in which I will cover two scenarios: a confirmation dialog experience and a dialog experience in which the user can leverage the Power Apps form control to add or modify data. So let's check this out in action. I will start with a blank Canvas app. This app is connected to my data source, which in this case is a very simple SharePoint list wherein I'm tracking work progress details. 3 simple columns to track that information. In Power Apps, I will create a responsive screen by leveraging one of the responsive screen layouts, which is called header and footer. This screen I will rename to my home screen. And in this, I have the responsive container controls baked in, wherein I have my header section, main container section, and the footer section. In these containers, I can add my controls. If I go to the settings of the app, as part of the upcoming features, we have modern controls as well, now available in Power Apps in preview. You can use either classic controls or modern controls to create this experience that I'm showcasing. In my case, it's modern controls are turned on. We also have to ensure that we go to display and make sure that scale to fit is turned off. I have also turned off lock orientation because we are going to build a fully responsive app. In my header container, I will go and insert one of the modern controls called badge. The content property for this control, I'll call it work progress tracker. This control is in the container, so it gets additional properties like alignment in container. I'll set this to stretch, and flexible width I will turn on. So that sets up my header container. In the main section container, I will go and insert a gallery control. I'll pick vertical gallery to show the data from my SharePoint list that is connected in the app. Now I've done videos on styling galleries. I'll recommend you to check those videos. In this case, I've simply gone ahead and styled my gallery to show the items, showing the title of the item, the status, the due date. And I have a couple of icon controls here, which I will leverage to launch the pop-up dialog experience. Edit will be to edit the item, and delete would be to delete that specific item. The footer container, I do not need it in my scenario, so I'll go ahead and delete that. Now at this point, if I preview this Power App, I am on a desktop experience. Let's change this to a tablet experience. This is a tablet experience held horizontally. I'll change the orientation to vertical. I'll go to a mobile experience held vertically, held horizontally. This app is fully responsive in nature. Create a dialog control experience, that too for a responsive screen. I cannot add the dialog control components in my existing screen containers. I need a separate container for my screen that mimics what this main screen container does. It takes the entire real estate of the screen. So I'll select the screen, go to insert, and insert a vertical container control. This container, I have renamed it as dialog container 1. I'll position this on the top left by selecting drag and drop, make sure that the X position is 0, Y position is 0. So it starts from the top left. The width of this container needs to be the width of my screen. So parent dot width, and the height of this container needs to be the height of my screen. So parent dot height. So for the delete icon control in my container, when this is clicked, I would like to open that dialog experience. On select of this, I'll set a variable to true. This same variable is what I will leverage for my dialog container's visible property. And this dialog container has a property called fill. For now, I'll just set it to color Alice Blue. Now notice, the moment I click on the delete icon, this dialog container is visible. When we want to show a pop-up experience, we want the background to be grayed out. So for that, for the fill property, I will use the function RGBA 0.3. The last part is the opacity. So we can see how this creates this experience where the background is grayed out and I cannot click or select any controls on my screen. Now I'll start adding my controls that I would like to show in my pop-up dialog. I'll select this dialog container and insert another vertical container. This container, its color property, just basically the fill, I'll set it to white. Flexible height for this, I'll turn this off. I'll select my dialog container, vertical justification, center, horizontal alignment, center. And this is where I'll start adding my controls that I would like to show in that dialog experience. In this, the first thing I would like to add is a cancel icon. This alignment and container I will set to the end. I'll reduce its width. When this icon is clicked, all I have to do is close the dialog. So I'll set my variable to false. So when I select this, that container goes away. My screen controls are all active. If I click the delete icon, the dialog container lights up. Now in this container, the user is deleting the item. So I would like to give them a message like a confirmation dialog. So I'll add a simple text control. The text would be, are you sure you want to delete the item? Alignment and container, I'll set it to stretch. Its align property, I'll set it to center. And I would like to add two buttons next to each other. So horizontally positioned inside a vertical container. For the vertical container, I will insert a horizontal container. In this horizontal container now, I will insert a couple of button controls. The container in which these buttons are placed, horizontal justification, center. And I would like to give a gap between these button controls. So I'll give a gap of 20. The first button, its text will be no. Type of this button, I'll make it secondary. And on select of this, I will set that variable to false, which will close the dialog. The other button, text, yes. On select, I would like to remove the item from my data source, remove from my connected SharePoint list, my gallery control dot selected. The user had to select an item in the gallery in order for this dialog to launch. And right after this, I will set that variable to false to close the dialog. If I would like to give the user a notification, I can also do that by using the notify function. Let's say item has been deleted, notification type information, and show this message for 3 seconds. Now, if I preview the app, I'll pick this specific item, click delete. Are you sure you want to delete the item? I'll say yes. The item gets deleted from my data source. I get that notification and the pop-up dialog goes away. If I pick a different item for deletion, I say no, the dialog simply closes. Right now, I'm viewing this on a desktop experience. Let's go to a tablet experience held horizontally. This looks fine. Held vertically. This looks fine. Let's go to a mobile experience. Here, if you notice, the X icon is missing. The width of this container is more than the width of the screen here. If we actually pick that container where the controls of the pop-up dialog is placed, it has a property called width that is hard-coded to 500. Works great for all screen sizes, but not for the mobile experience. So I need to set the width to the width of the screen when viewing this on a mobile device held vertically. And luckily for us, the screen controls in Power Apps have a property called size. If screen size is 1, it means the user is on a mobile device held vertically. Screen size 2 means mobile device held horizontally or tablet held vertically. Screen size 3 means tablet device held horizontally, and screen size 4 means the user is on a desktop experience. So let's take advantage of that and define the width of this container. So I'll use a function called switch. Switch on the name of my screen, which is home screen, and the property I am looking out for is size. If the screen size is 1, meaning mobile device held vertically, I will use parent.width. This time if I preview, notice how it takes the width of the screen and I can see that X icon control. If I change the orientation, this looks good. Maybe you want to change the design of this experience to take the entire real estate on a mobile device held vertically. We've already set the width for this container by leveraging the screen size. We can do the same thing for the height property. Height is hard-coded to 200. If the screen size is 1, I will change the height to parent.height, else I'll keep it to 200. So this time, if you notice, on a mobile device held vertically, if I was to delete an item, it launches the pop-up dialog in full screen mode. For the edit icon experience, we would like to open a dialog which allows the user to make modifications to the data of that item. So once again, I need a dialog experience. So I'll select my home screen, go and insert the vertical container control, position it on the top left, width, parent.width, height, parent.height. The fill property, RGBA 000 0.3. This container, I'll call it my form dialog container. The edit icon on select, I'll set a variable to true. This variable is what I will use to define the visible property of my form container control. So if I click edit on any item, the form dialog container comes alive. In this, I would like to add my dialog controls. So once again, I will insert a vertical container, color white, flexible height off, the dialog container, vertical justification, center, horizontal alignment, center. In this container, I will insert the cancel icon, position it on the right. On select of this, all I have to do is set that variable to close the dialog to false. And we can see it in action. Now in this container, I need my form experience. So I'll go and insert the edit form control. The data source will be my connected SharePoint list. So it's gone ahead and added the columns or the fields from my data source. The columns property for the form control, I'll set it to 1. So it shows 1 column per row. And this container needs more height to show the form control. So the height property for this container, for now, I'll set it to, let's say, 500. Now this is a classic form, so all my controls are classic. I've done a video showing how you can modernize this. So I've gone ahead and modernized the form. This is a vertical container. Similar steps as before. I will insert a horizontal container. Flexible height I'll turn off. I'll give this container a height of, let's say, 80. In this container, I will insert my buttons. This horizontal container, horizontal justification, center. Would like to give a gap between these buttons. The first button's text will be cancel, type secondary. On select, all I have to do is set that variable for form dialog to false. And the other button, the text will be saved. On select of this, I will simply go ahead and use the function submit form to submit my form control. This will submit the updates that I've made in these controls to my data source. And if this is successful, the form control has a property called on success. Here, I would like to go ahead and set that variable of mine to false to close the dialog. And I would also like to notify the user that the item has been updated successfully. Notification type success. I'll show this message for 3 seconds. So at this point, if I preview the app, when I select a specific item, this opens that form control experience. I can make modifications, change the status and the due date here. Click save. We can see those changes being reflected and the notification message comes alive. The responsive dialog control closes. So I'll go select an item, click edit. The dialog opens up for that specific item. If I was to click cancel, it simply closes the dialog. Now, is this responsive? Desktop experience looks good. Let's change this to a tablet experience held horizontally. Looks good. Change the orientation to vertical. Looks good. Let's go on the mobile device. The width of that container is more than the width of my screen. For this container control, the width, I'll use switch on my screen's size property. If it is 1, in that case, use parent.width, else use the width 500. So if I preview, dialog is positioned now in that real estate that's available. Another thing that I will recommend to do is for all the data cards in your form control, make sure you turn on width fit. It automatically fits the width based on the real estate. Now, if I was to change the orientation, this time if you notice, the height is cutting off. The height of that dialog control is more than the height of my screen. For the height property, I will switch on the screen size. If it is 1, I will say parent.height, but 1 is for a mobile device held vertically. But for 2, which is a mobile device held horizontally, I would like to say parent.height, else 500. Now, if I preview this time if you notice, the height of this dialog control is accurate based on the height of my screen. But for my form control, I'm getting a scroll bar, which of course, if you have too many fields, you will get a scroll bar experience. But here as well, we have certain options. For example, the form control has a property called columns. In my case, it's set to 1. Let's say I change this to 2. Now, if I preview the app, notice it fits 2 columns in 1 row. If I change the orientation to vertical, since there's not enough real estate, with fit was also turned on, you can see how nicely all those data cards align in a 1-column format. If I go to my window size, looks good. Tablet device held horizontally looks good. But if I go to my tablet device held vertically, that's the screen size number 2. In this case, if you notice, the height of that dialog is too much. It's taking the entire height of the screen. For a mobile device held horizontally, that's screen size 2. This looks good. But for a tablet device held vertically, this is also screen size 2. This does not look good. So how do I handle a scenario like this? For that container, height for screen size 2 is parent.height, which works for mobile device held horizontally. But for tablet device, I want to give it a defined height. So what I can do here is I can use the function min. So pick the minimum value from parent.height or the number 500. This time if I preview, for the tablet device held vertically, to screen size 2, my pop-up dialog looks good. If I go to the mobile device held horizontally, which is screen size 2, you can see how it takes the entire height. Because in this case, the minimum height is parent.height. I am viewing the data from my data source. I can edit, I can delete. Let's give it full CRUD support. The only part missing here is creating a new item. In my header container, I will go and insert the add icon. When this is clicked on select, I would want to reuse that same form dialog container. In that, the form control is an edit form control, but I want to change the mode of the form to new. So I'll use the function new form to change the mode of the form, and then I would like to launch that dialog control. So when I click on this plus icon, you can see it opens a new form experience. All validations are supported. But if I click on edit, it's still showing the new form. When I am clicking on this edit icon, just before opening the dialog, all I have to do is set the mode of the form here to edit. So now, if I click on edit, made an update to my item. And if I click on plus, I can go ahead and create a new item. Give it a title, set the status, give it a due date, save, and the new item is created in my data source. Single page app, fully responsive with responsive dialog controls. If you enjoyed this video, then do like, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And thank you so much for watching.